All right, guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode. In today's episode, it's all about the Suzuki Swift Sport and seeing if we can get this Suzuki Swift Sport running and driving in today's video, whilst I wait for parts, obviously, for the Escort RS Turbo to finish that build. Now, there is a lot that we need to do on the Suzuki to get it running and driving today, because I need to lift the head and make sure that the pistons and the cylinders are not damaged, because spark plug number 4 blew straight out of the head, and spark plug number 3, pardon me, absolutely self-disintegrated. It's in absolute pieces. So I need to make sure that nothing is damaged internally inside the engine. The easiest way to do that is going to be to lift the head, and that's going to enable me to put the head down on the workbench and then re-thread cylinder or spark plug number 4 even, so we can actually put a spark plug in, put the coil packs on, and get the car running. But the thing is, with the Swift Sport, the workshop manual actually says that you need to take the engine out of the car in order to do this job. So I'm going to attempt to do this with the engine still in the car. All right, so let's get stuck in with today's episode and see if we can get this car running, hey?
I feel like I need to explain why I'm actually doing this job with the engine still in the car, even though the workshop manual says take it out. Currently, the top performing videos on my channel are the ones that are showing you guys how to do something technical, like the timing belt on the Mitsubishi Challenger or the timing belt on the Fiesta ST. But as I get further through this video, you guys are going to notice that there's more work that needs doing on this engine than just a head gasket and a spark plug tube repair. But once I get the engine back together, I will have enough footage to put together a video for a full how to do a head gasket job on a Suzuki Swift Sport with the engine in the car.
There. So as the coolant is draining out there, understandably the car is on stands at the front, so there is going to be a lot of coolant that is going to collect in the rear of the block and maybe the rear of the head, and some coolant pipes that are around the intake manifold and stuff like that as well. What we need to start doing now is getting everything off the head and prepare it for removal. And as you can see, there really isn't a lot of space in here. So in order to get the head off, we need to start removing everything we possibly can from around the engine to give as much space as possible.
Now, the first thing that I should have had to remove was the coil packs, but the ones on this car had actually exploded, so I didn't need to remove them at all. I could get stuck straight into removing the rocker cover, which, as you can see, has already been removed. The rocker cover was super easy to remove. It's just held on by a heap of bolts, and sometimes a little bit of gasket and sealant has got in there as well. All you need is a 10mm socket and a ratchet to get this off. Interestingly though, when I pulled mine off, someone had actually put washers between the rocker cover and the head, instead of the washers being on the bolts and then on top of the rocker cover where you'd think they would obviously be. They were actually between the head and the rocker cover. Anyway, just getting the throttle body off now, and you can see that there's no throttle cable to disconnect on this car because it is a drive-by-wire throttle system, so I just had to remove the little electrical clip on the back end of the throttle body. And you can see that the injector rail is just tucked away off to the right-hand side of the screen there, and you can see that there's a little orange hose clamp on it just to stop any fuel from coming through in case I do happen to knock one of the injectors out whilst I'm moving around inside the engine bay. Once I got the fuel rail tucked away and the throttle body out, I could get stuck into the intake manifold, and if you're doing this job, I'd highly recommend a set of ratchet spanners. There's also a bracket on the rear of the intake manifold that supports the intake manifold, but you can get to that with a socket and ratchet. Next thing is just the heat shield, couple of 10mm bolts, and then that'll come straight out. And then exhaust manifold studs. I always like to put a bit of WD-40 on these before I start cracking them off. And just like the intake manifold, there's also a bracket supporting the exhaust manifold, so you got to make sure you get that off or it's not going anywhere. And with a little bit of wiggling and pulling, off comes the exhaust manifold.
When you're like, got your exhaust manifold off and you're tempted to like, well, it's off now, I may as well just put a turbo there, but we're not doing that.
I actually didn't get one of the most important pieces on video, I can't believe it, but whilst you're taking this engine mount out, or even before you're taking this engine mount out for that matter, make sure you support the engine underneath with a jack or something so it doesn't fall out when you actually remove the engine mount. After the engine mount comes the main crank pulley, and the easiest way that I found to get the main crank pulley off was not necessarily with an expensive specialist tool, because I didn't have that, or to use a cheater bar to put it through the frame of the car or between the drive shaft and the control arm, was to just get a strap, tie it off, wrap it around the pulley 3 times, going from the bottom up round the top, and then putting my impact driver onto the actual main crank bolt and undoing it, because all that would happen was if the crank pulley was to move, the strap would just tighten up on itself and it's all just going to come out nicely. And then after that is the oil control valve, complete with the oil feed line, and there's 2 bolts on the oil feed line, one at the bottom, one at the top, and then there's also 2 bolts holding the oil control valve in place. And after that one is the alternator and the alternator pulley. In order to stop the alternator pulley from spinning when I tried to undo it, I just stuck a screwdriver through the back end of it and wedged it up against the alternator. That helped me get that off, and then I could move the alternator out of the way to gain access to the rest of the bolts on the timing chain cover. One thing I did forget to mention though is you need to move the aircon pump out of the way to gain access to, yep, you guessed it, that elusive timing chain cover. Now, in order to get the access to the aircon pump, you just need to remove the front bumper. Super easy to remove though. There's just a couple of push clips holding it in place and some Phillips head screwdrivers underneath. Once you've got that off, you gain access to the aircon pump, remove the aircon pump bolts and just pull it forward and rest it on the front crash bar instead of disconnecting all the hoses and then having to go through the trouble of having your aircon regassed again. And finally, we have gained access to that elusive timing chain cover. Now, guys, there's absolutely tons and tons of bolts that you need to undo to get this timing chain cover off, because it wouldn't be a Suzuki if there wasn't tons and tons of bolts to get things off, right? So heaps of those to undo. You've gained access to it now though, so it's pretty easy to get to. However, there are 2 right in the middle of the timing chain case, and they do hold another part of the oil feed system in. I can't remember right now what that part of the oil feed system is called though, but I'm sure someone's going to comment down below and let me know what it is that I forgot the actual name of. Once you've got that out, pull that out straight away. It just comes out horizontally, and then go back underneath the car, and there's another 2 or 3 bolts on the far end of the sump cover that you need to undo, because the sump does actually hold some of the bolts that hold the timing chain case in. Once you've got those off though, pretty easy, straightforward. You may need to knock it a little bit with a mallet, but it will come off, and then just pull it out through the top of the engine bay. Okay, now we're actually getting somewhere. We can get the cams out of the car, but before you do this, you'd usually set the engine to top dead center. But when I get further through this video and I lift the head, you guys will notice exactly why I couldn't actually turn the engine round all the way to set it to top dead center, because there was something in the cylinder blocking its path. Now, all the caps on the cams are numbered E1 through to E5 and I1 through to I5 for intake or exhaust, so it doesn't really matter if you get those mixed up. However, you definitely don't want to get the cams mixed up, although it's pretty obvious which one is which. And if you do happen to take out the valve shims and the valves themselves, definitely do not want to get those mixed up, because they are specific for each valve that they're in. It is worth mentioning though that the bolts holding in the camshafts need to come off in a specific order, just like the ones for the head bolts as well. And you can find that specific order in the video description, where I've linked the workshop manual for the Suzuki Swift. So let's get these head bolts off. Now, with all the head bolts finally removed, we can lift the head and inspect cylinder number 4 and see if there's anything sat on top of the piston stopping us from turning the engine all the way around to top dead center. As I actually got the head off though, I could not believe my eyes. And honestly guys, I don't think you're going to be able to believe it either. There was a 10mm socket, a broken valve, and a bolt. Who puts a freaking 10mm socket inside a combustion chamber? Guys, that is it. What an episode. There was a bolt, a broken valve, all the disintegrated spark plug and probably bits of valve as well, and a freaking 10mm socket. How lucky am I? Because we never have enough 10mm sockets, right? Cannot believe it. What was in there? Gonna have to order a new valve now. I did have a look. It was the exhaust valve. Gonna have to order that, all the parts, a bit of grinding paste, and get this car back on the road. Cheers, guys. See you next time.